Think running a sub-3 marathon is only for elite athletes? Think again. Whether you're a fast track competitor, an ultra runner looking to pivot, or a dedicated recreational runner, cracking that 3 hour barrier is possible with the right plan. Welcome to episode 275 on the Healthy Runner podcast, where we help you get stronger, run faster, and enjoy lifelong injury free running. In this episode, I sit down with expert marathon coach Lufeng Zou from our Spark Healthy Runner coaching team to break down the exact fitness benchmarks, weekly mileage, and key training strategies you need to finally make that sub-3 dream a reality, plus 6 game-changing training tips and 5 in-race tactics that separate the runners who just missed the mark from those who crossed the finish line at 2:59. Who can run a sub-3 hour marathon, Lou?
Hey everyone. A lot of people can run the sub-3 marathons. We will talk about some benchmark later, but in general, you have to be an experienced runner first. If this is your first running, I would say do not have a set goal, and then once you build experience, then you can think about sub-3. By experienced runner, there are a few aspects. The most important is that consistency. You have been doing this for months, if not years. Consistent means first injury free, and injury free is related to a second point, which is strength training. You have been strength training for a long time. You adjust the muscle imbalances. There's weak muscles. You have been working on them, and then consistent mileage because we run. That's 40 plus miles per week. And if you're on a kilometer system, it's 60 plus kilometers per week. Again, this is for months, it's for not years. And then also lifestyle. Lifestyle is important so you can recover in time. You want to have enough sleep so you can recover. And also life stress. If you're just starting a new job, a stressful job, if you're doing a house, you just moved in a house, you're doing a lot of housework, that's too much stress, and that will not give you enough recovery. So lifestyle is one of them. And then racing, as an experienced runner, you have race. Race is not something that just it comes with experiences. That includes pacing. You go out to race, and if you race a few times, starting too fast is not gonna help too much. So you are able to pace yourself to execute the pacing plan, so you can run strong throughout. And mental strategy, you have the mental strength. So in the last few miles of marathon, when everything's getting hard, you still have the mental strength to push through. And fueling plan that include post and pre-race and racing, and during race, the fuel, how much gel you take, what kind of gel you take that will not upset the stomach. And what about the hydration, the fluid? Do you need extra salt tab? So all these things need to be optimized before you set up to take the run to the next level.
Oh, I love your answer because I love how it wasn't like a simple answer like, oh, you need to run, sub 7 minute pace for X number of miles, and then you can run a sub-3 hour marathon, right? Like you really look at it holistically, and it needs to be someone who's experienced, is what I'm hearing. You need to not be filled with injuries. So you need to be healthy. You need
Yes.
to have consistency in your mileage. And, if you're running 20 or 30 miles a week, like, no, this is not what you're going after, right? You need to be doing
Yes.
strength training. You need to
Hmm.
make sure it works with your current life situation that you are in, or that season of life.
Hmm.
And you really need to have some experience with racing and like cover all those things and those elements at like optimizing your race strategy. So I love that you looked at it from like a big picture view. It kind of like actually mirrors like almost like our 6 steps to growing in a running journey. Um,
Yes.
where it covers, nutrition and recovery and strength training and the run plan, race strategy, mental, right? You literally covered all 6 steps there. And I really want everyone who's listening to this right now to know something, that the percentage of people who can run a sub-3 hour marathon is actually between 2 and 5%. So the reason I mention this is to not be pessimistic, because Lou and I are like the most optimistic coaches that you'll see, right? Like if you put a goal out there, we're going to be, cheering you on. We're going to be optimistic. We love like striving for goals. However, we also need to be realistic. And there are a lot of people that I do meet, that I hop on calls with, and they might have this goal, but they have literally only covered like a tenth of the things that you mentioned, Lou. So, this topic today, I know, is only going to speak to a small section of the running population. And either if you're thinking about going sub-3, maybe
Mhm.
this may open your eyes to have a little bit more realistic view that, hey, maybe you're not actually ready to go for a sub-3 hour marathon. And maybe you need to continue growing in your marathon journey. But then also those that are ready, like you're going to be able to provide the guidance in today's episode on how we get there, right, and how we like craft that. And maybe speaking to that, Lou, I think it might be a good idea for those who are new to our audience. Tell us like why I selected you and invited you to come back on the show to kind of share this topic. Do you mind just like sharing a little bit about yourself and like why you are qualified to speak about running a sub-3 hour marathon?
Sure, I like to help and to share some experience. Myself is an adult onset runner. I've been active. I've been lifting. I've been doing hits style workouts prior to running. But not until 2017 I ran my first marathon, which is not too bad, 3 hour and 29 minutes. And then in 2019, I ran two marathons, but one is on in January, so pretty much 2018. So one in January, one in December. And the first one I get 321, and then at the end of the year I was able to run 305. Then the next year I did 301, and then finally in 2021 I was able to run Sub-3 in Boston.
On that hard course too. That's pretty remarkable.
I I was lucky, the weather is good, but I made a lot of improvement in 2019 as I start to learn into get into coaching. So I start to learn about the principles, and that's a pivot point.
Yeah, so you got certified. So you are certified in the Jack Daniels, right? The VDOT system of
Yes,
coaching.
yes.
And you've coached many athletes now. So not only have you done it personally, you've helped guide other athletes to the sub-3 mark. So yeah, you're certainly the most qualified team member on our team to kind of speak to this topic, because you really do know what it takes to kind of get to this stream. So and yeah, I would definitely echo your sentiments on, you're like so selfless and you love like helping others. And the running community definitely thanks you for that. And you've already like provided so much value on previous episodes of the podcast, which for those who want to check out more trainings from Coach Lou, I will have the link that compilates all of the previous videos, podcast episodes that Lou has been on. And to let you know that we do have a freebie download for you, which is our marathon training guide for advanced runners with longevity in mind. And, if you're looking to prioritize longevity and you just don't want to run a sub-3 hour marathon as a bucket list item, do it once and never run again. If you want to continue running for like mental clearing miles and minimize risk of injuries along the way, like this resource is for you. It's filled with previous trainings that we've done from marathon mindset, base building, strength training for marathon training, nutrition, gradual progression, adequate rest recovery, as well as kind of some of the elements that are going to really add to a well-rounded training. So you can get that link, you can get that download I'll have the link for you in the show notes, or just go to learn.sparkhealthyrunner.com/marathon. And then one other quick announcement, just at the timing of this release, we are now officially open for marathon specific one-on-one coaching for fall marathons. So whether you're running Chicago, Hartford, New York City Marathon, Marine Corps, Philly, like I am this year, or your local marathon. And if you've struggled with nagging injuries every time you've tried to train for a marathon, or you just can't get that breakthrough marathon performance, then this is the program for you. Not only will you get the structured strength and run plan for marathon training to not only crush your marathon goal, but you're going to stay healthy, finish the race feeling strong. So if that sounds like the result that you're looking for this fall, you can apply for our signature Healthy Runner coaching program before our spots fill up. Just go to learn.sparkhealthyrunner.com/coaching. And Lou, my next question to you is, what does my running fitness need to be in order to run a sub-3 hour marathon?
So running fitness, it's very easy. It's the VDOT calculator is a very good indicator for running fitness. I'm certified through VDOT as well. So put the 3 hours marathon in the VDOT website. We can drop the link in the notes. Then it's VDOT. VDOT is a system to evaluate your running fitness. So it's a number based, and for sub-3 that is equivalent to VDOT 53.5, which doesn't make many sense. But now let's look at the equivalent. That means that's equivalent to an hour and 26 half marathon. Or in terms of 10K, it's about 39 minutes 10K, or 5K, 18 minutes 48 seconds 5K. So note that these are equivalent based on data for a lot of races across different race data, but that's assuming you have ideal build up enough mileage for the marathon. So for example, you are a high school very fast 5K runner, but you don't run any long runs and you go out for a run marathon. It doesn't necessarily mean you can just pull out the marathon sub-3 automatically. These are equivalent assuming you have the proper training.
Gotcha. Okay. So when I open my VDOT and it says 43.1, that means I'm not ready to run a sub-3 hour marathon. Got it. I got
Yet.
it.
Yet.
Yet. All right. So yeah, that's some benchmarks, guys, just to give you a realistic again. And I think you bring up a great point there again, Lou, is that you need to actually complete the training. So
Yes.
if you haven't done a marathon yet and you've only run a half, or you've done 10Ks and 5Ks, but the calculators say you could run sub-3, you still need to actually put in that work and put in the training. But that gives us a good idea. I don't know how many people know their VO2 max, Lou, but I know Runner's World talks about being around a 65 and a half VO2 max. I don't know if that means anything to anyone. I don't know if you agree with that at all.
Well, this V.O2 is not the same as VO2. It's the numbers are calculated based on your recent race performance, which is more accurate because that take into account of everything, including your mental strength. But the VO2 max, especially those we got from watch, the things that a lot of time our heart rate is not accurate, and then everything based on that heart rate, the VO2 max based on heart rate is not very accurate because the heart rate itself is not accurate. So I usually take it as a grain of salt. And then this recent race is a more realistic indicator. And recent race means, say, you run something really fast 30 years ago, and then now you have been dormant. Then you cannot just use your 30 years ago PR to evaluate the current fitness. You want to use a recent race to evaluate the current fitness.
Makes sense. Makes sense. And yeah, I know so many runners who get upset when they see their VO2 max on Garmin Connect change or whatever. yeah, I would just reiterate, like as Lou said, that's only relying on like unreliable measurements to begin with. So yeah, don't get all upset what Garmin Connect says is your VO2 max. But yeah, when we're thinking about going for that, like that sub 3 hour marathon try, like when's a good time to do that?
You have to be in the vicinity to enter the building, right? So when you
All
are
right. So as we established, I'm already like outside of the vicinity, right? Dwayne's not, going for this anytime soon, guys, just to be
but
clear.
but you can head towards that direction. So those benchmark equivalency I said are what the sub 3 fitness is. So when you are close to that, that means you can start to think about that. A common one is first you want to start with sub 25k, then go to try to run a sub 130 half, and then try to run a sub 40 10k. Then you pretty much right there. And then when you are able to run a half marathon under an hour and 28 minutes, or a 5k under 19 minutes, you are pretty close. And again, notice all these criteria are based vary from person to person. There are different people, different kind of athletes. You can be an endurance type. You can be a speedy type. You say you are a sprinter, so then your short distances are runs are faster. Then you can in the v dot calculator, you can even put your 1 mile race time. But if you are really fast short distance runners, you put that time, that's not the best criteria. So I would say since half marathon is closest to the marathon, when you are sub one, you run a sub 130 half marathon, you can start think about, you can put sub 3 marathon in your in your calendar.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when
So
you are,
they start to set that goal.
yes, when you run the half marathon under 128, then you are really close. You just need a
Gotcha.
good plan and then stick to all the points we are gonna talk about, and you'll get there.
All right. Yeah. No, I love how you highlighted the point of doing the distance closest to the marathon and looking at that
Yes.
half marathon time, because I think my personal example is actually a great example, because once upon a time, Lou, believe it or not, I did run a sub 20-minute 5K.
Hmm.
It was actually at the one in New Haven, the Christopher Martin's one in December.
Oh,
1 year I ran a 19, I think it was like 22, way back
wow.
when. And that was also the same time that I ran my first marathon, which was above 4 hours because I bonked and didn't know anything about marathon training. So, like, it speaks to your point for those that are new getting into the marathon. If you're a really fast 5K runner, you can't just look at, hey, this is what I'm going to do for the marathon. My example, like, I'm living proof that you can't just look at that, and to definitely look at those half marathon times. So we're really looking at, once we start going sub 130 in the half marathon, then you're like in the ballpark, you're in the vicinity, you could start to like think about this. And it sounds like there are different types of runners
Hmm.
who may be going after this sub 3. So I know you mentioned like kind of speedy, fast 5K runners. What are like the three different types of runners, and how would like training for a sub 3 hour marathon like look different for like these three different types of runners?
Yes, everyone's different. We can break into three types. The first scenario is a very fast track athlete. So say 800-meter runners, 400-meter runners, 1 mile runners, or up to 5k runners, cross country runners. So they have very fast 5k times, way faster than 19 minutes, say 16 minutes, 17 minutes. So what they need is mileage. So they want to translate their short distance race to a long race. You need a mileage. So your legs used to run at longer times. And also something really important is to learn how to pace yourself, because when you are running short distances, you can go out. You may quote unquote bunk, but it doesn't matter. You just suffer a little more for a few minutes. You're fine. For marathon, it's so much longer. If you bunk, which means you hit a wall, then it's not gonna come back. So you really need to learn how to pace yourself. The other things is that you want to get used to sub maximal effort, but longer, because you're used to running something really short and fast, potentially anaerobic, but marathons aerobic, which will be helpful when you run long run. But then you add some spice, which I call then spice, by adding some fast workouts at the second half of the long run. So you force yourself to start slow, so pace yourself again, and then towards the end you start to pick up pace, so you finish strong. And then tempo runs, threshold runs, that help you translate this short distance fitness to a long run with a little suboptimal, sub-maximal but longer effort. So that's for these fast track athletes. Then the second category is very different, like completely opposite, for people who's ultra runners, who run 100 miles a week or even more, 200 miles a week, or crazy. So you just spend so much time on your feet. You essentially you live in the woods, and so you have so much run you spend so much time running. You you are very fit, but you're not used to run fast. What you can do is that you want to start with strides, which is a short, fast leg turnover to reactivate the muscle from the short, slow endurance to a little fast twitching muscles. And then speed work is always important. Start with the short speed work, like the strides, and then to tempo run threshold. We mentioned tempo run. Threshold run is very important for marathon training. We can we have talked about this for an entire episode, so we can refer to the episode for more details. And the third is uh, still for the ultra runners. You want to learn different type of fueling, because when you run long time, you can actually eat whole food. You eat peanut butter and jelly. You eat pickle. But when you're running fast, your stomach is not gonna work as well as when you are just walk or run a little slower. So then you want to find something that can work as your stomach, that doesn't upset your stomach when you're running fast. So that you want to learn different type of fueling. The fourth thing is tapering, because you spend so much time on your feet. You want to cut down the mileage a little bit when you run faster, and also give yourself a little bit more recovery. So these are a lot of things you want to do when you are temporarily switch to a shorter but faster distance. And
Right.
third,
So let me
okay,
just before I just want to, because that was a really good example how you had like two ends of the spectrum, right? You
yes,
had like the fast track athlete who runs very fast for shorter distances. Their goal is to now lengthen their interval work, add
hmm
in those threshold pace type runs, which are important in building stamina for the marathon, and then
hmm
add in those long runs with spice,
yes,
and get them running faster on tired legs during that second
hmm
half of like the long run, like you mentioned. And then that ultra athlete who's used to running slower for a longer distance in period of time, for them, it's like almost working from the opposite end of the spectrum and getting their legs to turn over quicker and almost like train their neuromuscular system to be a little bit more poppy, a little bit more reactive. Like,
hmm
add in more of those strides, the shorter intervals, because it's not endurance that's their problem. It's a matter of going faster and getting that leg turnover
hmm
for the length of the marathon. Okay, that totally makes sense to me. And I'm
hmm
thinking that the majority of our audience is probably going to fall into this like third category. And what is
yes.
that? What type of runner is that?
I'll call them recreational runner, but becoming serious. So you start with runners, you, just like everyday runners, that you get into running, you start to run more and more, you become more and more consistent. You graduated from the Health Runner Academy. So recreational runner getting more and more serious. Maybe you start investing on run coach. So now you're ready to have more time commitment, and you can set up time, you can train. Then for these majority, or in the middle of spectrum, time commitment, as we said, it's a key. And then recovery, always very important, because you can only train as hard as you recover. Otherwise, you end up injured. So recovery is very important, including what we mentioned: sleep, fuel, but especially important when you start as a recreational runner getting serious. That means the stress is going to be more. So recovery is more important. We need more recover. Mileage, you want to make sure you run enough mileage. Speed work, including tempo runs, that's threshold work, and marathon pace runs, and different types of runs, strides, speed work, and pacing strategy. You want to optimize your pacing strategy. Start when you are more serious in terms of running specific time. You want to have a plan, and then pacing plan. So you start at a certain pace. Maybe you slow down a little bit when you're going uphill. Maybe you pick up the pace a little bit downhill, or you want to have a negative split. And it depends, but optimizing pacing strategy is also is one of the key point to get a sub-3 as well.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point that you bring up as far as like us recreational runners, right? And you're a recreational runner as well. And, a
Mhm.
lot of, as opposed to like the first category we talked about, like the fast 5Kers, like usually those are younger runners in their 20s, right? They might not necessarily, have a family yet, right? They're
Yes.
kind of single still. They got all the time in the world before, spouse, kids, pets, everything of life kind of gets chaotic. And the
Yes.
ultra runner, I think, is used to spending a lot of time out in the woods, so they've already carved out that time. But like this recreational runner we're talking about, hasn't had this time commitment yet. So I think
Yes.
that's like an important point that you bring up, and that you need that in order to like do the training to get sub-3, as
Training
well
and
as.
recovery. So you have time commitment both for the training and for the recovery. Sorry.
Yes. So you're not just.
Sorry.
No, thank you. Thank you. Because I was going to mention that. And you took the words right out of my mouth, Lou. That was perfect. That it's not only to do the running, but to recover from the running. Like you need time for
Yes.
that. You can't, do a hard, 8-9 miler speed session during the week and then, hop right in the shower, rush into work and give a presentation on your feet all day, or, jump right into meetings, right? Like you have to allow this little bit of recovery for the hard
Hmm.
training that you are going to be completing in order to get sub-3.
Hmm.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So just give us an idea in terms of like, what does a weekly, training, like what does a weekly training, I guess an average training week look like? Or like how many miles should you be running in a week in order to get a sub-3 marathon?
In general, I mean, there are some people who's very talented, but in general, mileage, I would say 55 to 70 miles per week, or in terms of kilometers, 70 to 100, 110 miles kilometers per week. That's typical mileage. If you t- talking about long runs, at that time, 20 miles is not a problem for experienced runners. So your long run will fall in 20 to 20 mile, 20 to 22 or even more miles, but usually 20 to 22 is enough. But you want to add some spice as well, which is adding some fast speed, marathon pace, or tempo runs, or strides, or something, especially at the later part of the run.
Right. So you really, you're definitely over 50 miles per week, in the mid 50s to 60 miles per week. So this is definitely a time commitment. And again, just keeping in mind, guys, if you're currently doing 30 miles a week, right, that, you're not knocking on the door yet, right? You need to be, having that weekly volume up, which is so important to kind of really build that like solid base level of training before you really go after like a hard sub-3 marathon training cycle. So I think you bring up some good points there. And as far as the long runs, yeah, because they are faster, right? Like all those long runs are essentially way under 3 hours, right? So it's not as hard on the body
Yeah.
versus someone who runs a 10-minute pace, right? For their long runs is going to be, over 3 hours for like an 18 miler or 16 miler. So for someone at this caliber, you do want to actually increase the long runs a little bit higher than you would for someone who's running at
Yeah.
a slower pace, just because
Yeah, I
time
wanna
on feet.
yes, I wanna add 2 points. First, this is a peak training. You don't have to run 20 miles every week. Second, this um, long runs, long run with spice. It's mm, well, I'll I'll add it later. I forgot.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I think, and those who are kind of new to our nomenclature here, long runs with spice, Lou's really referring to like long run workouts where you're doing pace work within the long run. So you could either, commonly you'll run a lot of miles at marathon goal pace, right? Or you might even have a couple at threshold pace that Lou likes to put in there to maybe even get the legs turning over a little bit more. So it is just adding in faster running to the long runs. We do, in general, see a lot more success with
Mhm,
adding in faster running to your long run and having one speed day as opposed
mhm.
to having like 2 speed days during the week and then a long run that is only easy long running. So we do find that, a lot more beneficial and improving performance for marathon training. Yeah. Any other kind of, I guess, peak training tips that you want to add besides the weekly mileage and the long runs themselves?
Yes, that's a second point I forgot. Now I remember. Is that, as you said, uh, these numbers are based on your experience. You are almost there. So 22 miles will fall under 2 hour and a half usually. Um, but even if that's easy run, it's gonna be less than 3 hours. So that give you enough time to recover.
Gotcha. Okay.
Hmm.
Yeah, makes sense. And yeah, we also talk about in a previous episode that we did on like advanced marathon training.
Hmm.
So if you guys are interested in this, like definitely check out that episode. It's episode 139 on the Healthy Runner
Hmm.
podcast. If you want to go back and check out where we definitely got into like more detail with like the training and the types of runs to include in advanced marathon training. But I really want to go to your 6 training tips for like a
Hmm.
specifically a sub-3 marathon. What's tip number 1?
Well, since it's Healthy Runner podcast, staying healthy. You want to be healthy for a long time, and recovery is a key from running and from life stress. Unless all you do is running, because usually we have other thing else, and something else. Life can be stressful. You're leading a new project. You're doing a lot of home project. All these are stressful. You want to recover from that, and mentally too. So recovery is key. Staying healthy so you can recover from all this stress.
Yeah, yeah, you don't have to get me to agree on that. If you're not healthy, like you're not going to be able to run fast during marathon training, right? So you have to stay healthy. You have to listen to your body. It's not a matter of just like pushing through injuries. And we talk about on this show a lot that you don't have to stop running with
Mm.
injuries, but there are ways to prevent injuries. And when you feel a little niggle, a little ache and pain, there are key strategies to address an Achilles tendon that starts like creeping up and starts becoming a little painful, where your IT band starts becoming painful, when you get to that 2.5 hour long run mark. There are things that you don't want to ignore those, right? You want to start like implementing some specific exercise, some specific strategies to take care of that so you can continue to train. Because yeah, it pains us for runners to like complete a marathon training cycle and they get right to where they're peaking, and now boom, they get this like, big injury, really flared up, a lot of pain. Like there's so many people who actually
Mhm.
reached out to me literally 3 weeks, 2 weeks, and 1 week before Boston this year,
Oh
who
no.
are in my inbox emailing me, hey, wondering what I should do. I got Boston next week, and they described to me their whole situation, their whole scenario. And at that point, there's not a whole lot I can do to help them, unfortunately. But like that pains me when someone is really faced with not running for like 2 weeks before their goal, like
Mhm.
marathon, right? That's not how you want taper to happen. That's
Mhm.
not going to leave you freshest, and it's not going to clear your mind that you're confident to like toe the line and run the race that you want to run
Mhm.
when you haven't really completed the training. So staying healthy is super important.
It's the
What's tip
key.
number two?
Number two, fueling before the run, during the run. I want to add before the run because it's not just the gel you take or electrolytes you have during the run. If you go to a marathon, but then the day before, say you have a spicy seafood, then you're gonna have you have problem. You're gonna have stomach issues, or say you have a stressful day and you didn't eat anything, then you go to the marathon, even though you have all the race, you have all the you have all the gel with you, you are not really fueled. So you want to pre-carb load and electrolytes too. So everything is well replenished. You're ready. You have both the carb, you have the electrolytes in you. So before the race and during the race, you need them.
Yeah, so important. And we've talked about this with Brooke, a registered dietitian. We've done a whole episode on marathon fueling and
Hmm.
nutrition, and it is just so important, especially if you are, that gifted athlete who ran in college. You're in your 20s. I don't think you appreciate this aspect of training yet. So hopefully you will listen to Lou's advice on getting that sub-3 marathon, and go back and listen to that episode with Brooke as well. It is in the download, the marathon download that I mentioned earlier, all of Brooke's tips there. But yeah, you definitely have to fuel before, night
Hmm.
before, morning before, during
Hmm.
the run. You got to get in. It's a game of how many carbs can I get in during this. And I like how you mentioned, Lou, in a lot of your race strategy notes is like a slow drip of sugars
Hmm.
and salts. So you're getting the electrolytes. You
Hmm.
need the carbs. They're going to give you a spark. The more that you can get in, the better. But that being said, you have to practice it in training. So if you're
Hmm.
listening to this 2 or 3 weeks before your sub-3 attempt, and you haven't practiced it on your long runs, don't go and increase by like, you know, 50 grams of carbs per hour more, because your gut is going to resist it. It's not going to be happy with you. You're going to spend half the race in the porta potty. So you gotta do it in training. Nothing new on race day. All right. So fueling is tip number two. What about number three?
Number three, listen to your body. Because when you're training for a PR, likely a PR, if you want to go sub-3, probably you first, you're gonna shoot for PR. You are working at very hard. You are challenging, pushing the boundary of your physical boundary that you are pushing very hard. Then you want to pay attention. You want to listen to your body, whether there's excess fatigue and not just normal fatigue. Is after workout, yes, workout will be hard, but then you'll recover. But if you have excess fatigue, usually that comes from a combination of lack of sleep, life, or lack of fuel, not enough carbs.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have excess fatigue, that's a red light. And then related to that, stress fracture. If you not doing enough weight bearing exercise to strengthen your bone and tendons, you may end up stress fracture. So there are some signs. I'm sure, Dwayne, you have better ideas for that. But this something you listen to your body. I'm sure there are early signs you can monitor. And then something as a data obsessive with data, there's something measurement physiological measurement you can monitor. HRV, heart rate variance, is something you can monitor from your Garmin watch or some other watch. In general, is that the HRV, there's a baseline for everyone, but if you see the numbers drops significantly, that means the body's under stress. And rest heart rate, if the rest heart rate suddenly goes up, that means the body's probably battling something as well. I want to add that the data is use the data as a reference and do not get too obsessed with data. These are good references. It's more like to remind you my body may need more recovery. So in either case, it's better to be error on the safe side, to get the body a little more love, to sleep a little more, to eat a little more, and because you are pushing to your limit.
Yeah, no, I think this is a great point, and this is really, where we're looking at, downloading a plan to go sub 3 hour marathon, and you try to complete the plan as written, right? Versus working with a coach like someone who works with Lou on our team. Lou's going to be looking at signs that you're commenting within Final Surge that maybe you are a little bit more fatigued. Maybe he's noticing some of the data that we can see in Final Surge that things weren't hitting. So he might ask, what's going on? Are you going through a lot of stress at work, at home, or how has your sleep been? Right? Like, so if you're not working with a coach, guys, this is where Lou's saying you got to listen to your body, because these have been sometimes the literal, like, game changing strategies, or like turning points in someone's training cycle, because Lou will go now and adjust the plan that he originally had written for that week, because he knows that, what, if I do this plan, long run with Spice while they're fatigued, most likely it's just going to lead to maybe an injury, maybe burned out, or not recovering enough. So then that fatigue lingers into the next week of training, right? So these are like the little things that you probably don't really think about if you're just downloading a plan, or now with like every app and AI out there. I'm sure you can have ChatGPT write you a sub 3 hour, right, marathon training plan. But if you're not listening to your body's cues, and you're not really modifying that plan on how you're feeling, then it's going to be like a plan to fail, honestly. So this is, one thing that I think is key. And that is one of I see, at least in a lot of our athletes, almost like, one of the best things that we do for them from like a skill perspective is we're making those decisions in game on how do we modify based on how someone's responding to the training. So yeah, guys, don't take this point lightly. And then, great point about, stress fractures, definitely going after this goal. It might be a reach for some of you. Maybe you're almost not in the vicinity. You're like kind of in the ballpark. You're like in the parking lot of the ballpark, right? You're not really inside the ballpark, but you're like, you know what? I don't care what Lou and Dwayne said. I'm going for this Sub-3 training. Those types of people are the ones who are most at risk for getting stress fractures when you are really reaching in training. And if you're underfueled, as Lou mentioned, and fatigue and stress and all of that, it is a huge, like, kind of risk factor, and like a perfect storm essentially to, suffer from a stress fracture. So all great points there. What is training tip number 5?
One note is that when you're feeling great in your training, do not overkill the workout. You may tend to make it even harder. When the coach said, say you run 6:30 tempo run and you feel good, you run 650, 615, and may do one or two extra miles. Why not? Well, that puts you to the risk of overtraining because you are already working at the towards your limit and you're feeling good, yes, but then that's also fine line between best training and overtraining. So if you overkill the workout, you may end up in the overtraining zone and end up injuries.
Okay. So not overkilling the workout when you're feeling really good. Don't like go for more. Don't get greedy, basically.
No,
So that kind of goes with that tip number 3 to listen to your body. So now what's tip number 5?
this tip number 6. 1, 2, 3. Oh, the tip number 5 is to sharpening the mental game. Marathon is very mental. It's not just, yes, we talk about all these physical aspect, but it's also mental. Try to consider every long run as an opportunity to practice your strategy, your feel, and especially long run spikes, your mental strength towards the end, and also your mental strength not to push too fast in the beginning. And mental game also can come from other people's support. If you have a support team, you have a community, you have some run buddies that can help you, that will help you go through some workout that's very hard, but make it feel easy. They may help you feel better. They may bring your eyes in the mid of summer as it gets so hot. So the support will help you dramatically mentally. Visualization. If you if you're scared of something that may happen, visualize it and then visualize how you're gonna conquer it. Visualize when you pass the finish line, you see two something something, and then you trace back your step towards it. For example, you see that you visualizing when you pass the finish line 2:59:59, and then trace back 6 miles at mile 20. You are already working very hard. Things getting a little tougher, and you visualize how you keep running with your heart and you holding your pace. Believe, trust your training. You take your gel, so you get a little energy boost and you keep going. So this visualization will help you go through this tough part of the running
Yeah.
and training.
So it's not only about the running, it is a matter of training the mind and
Hmm.
really increasing your mental strength and using some of those strategies that you mentioned. Whether on a long run, you're really taking that opportunity. Those long runs are not just hard on the legs, not only hard on the lungs, but they're hard on the mind, right? And it is almost more of a challenge to the mind. And you have to go to your mantras that you're going to be using during
Hmm.
race day, practice those in training so you can easily pull them out. And yeah, visualization is a great skill tool that you can use to definitely help here. So it is a matter of like really strengthening that mental game in
Hmm.
addition to the running that you're doing. Okay. Yeah. Lou, if we can shift gears a little bit to like specifically race day, and I know you have some tips that you want to share for like, race tips for sub-3 marathon. What are those?
There are a few aspects. First, the foremost is pacing strategy. You do not want to start all out. You want to start a little slower so you can get used to it. You can get into the groove. A lot of people knows, well, some marathon, 3 hour marathon means 6:52 pace. A lot of people consider, oh, that means I just hold on to 6:50 for as long as possible. But if the first mile is a big uphill, do you just keep pushing it, or you have your legs not really warm up, you just push that fast? It may not be the best. So pace yourself. If you have a coach, usually they will say you to stay a little slower, start a little slower, and then go into groove. I like to break it into a few parts. The first per 6 miles should be a little slower from, say, 10, 15 seconds behind the target marathon pace and graduate into the marathon pace. And then the middle section from 6 miles to 13.1 to half marathon point, you get into your target pace. And then at half marathon time, you ask yourself honestly, do you have a good day? Are you able to push a little harder? If so, then you can push a little harder. And then at mile 20, you give all you can. Mental game. So pacing strategy. Of course, depending on the race, the course profile, you may shift the pacing strategy. But the key is that you wanna be able to pace yourself so you don't go out too hard. Because a lot of people talk about banking time. I also say bank is to make money. If you bank time, you're gonna pay the interest.
I like
So
that.
pace yourself.
I like that. Okay, yeah, you gotta start out a little slower than your goal pace. So that's the key: is starting out 5-10 seconds slower. Those first couple of miles, ease into your goal marathon pace, and then see how you're feeling at that halfway mark. And then mile 20 is when the race starts.
Yes, it's 26.2 miles. It's 20 miles of warm up and 10K race.
Yes, yes, I love it.
And fueling is so important. You want to practice fueling again over and over again. You want to have enough, but not too much, so you end up throw up. But not enough, but not not enough, so that you end up running short. And we talk about the war. A lot of people say talking. I hate the war. The war, it comes either from a bad pacing strategy, or you burned all the energies. You don't feel enough. So if you don't, the war doesn't have to exist if you pace yourself correctly and you have proper fueling. So fueling is very important. The fueling will help you remove the war. So fueling is important.
Gotcha. All right, so that's tip number 2 is the proper fueling. What's tip number 3?
Pre-race, pre-race, we already mentioned about the fueling and electrolytes and things, but the other things that usually a lot of times we go to marathon, we travel to a place. So if you spend the day before, you spend a lot of time traveling, touring the city on your legs, on your feet, even though you may think, oh, I'm just walking very slow, but you end up walking for hours. There's still time on your legs, literally, and you will feel it. So the day pre-race, you want to rest up. You can do some shakeout runs. A lot of people do, or some short walk, but you don't want to spend excess time on your feet, and you want to have enough carbs, enough electrolytes. So that's pre-race is also important. Also, pre-race stress. You don't want to bring a lot of stress to yourself. So it can be invisible. It can be like, oh, I want I have all this stress. I want to do this. I want to do this. I want to tell to everyone something like that. You want to try to minimize the stress as well. If you have a really important marathon race, you don't want to schedule important meeting the day before. Some, for example.
Right. Yeah. Makes sense that you're clearing your personal work schedule long before, so you're not in this high stress.
Yes.
Your body's not feeling that stress, because stress can manifest itself physically, and you're not going to have your best day on race day. Makes sense.
Yes. The stomach may respond to the stress
Been
before you
there
know it.
before.
Yes. And logistic can be, you want to lay out everything, so also it's a way to reduce the stress. You want to get the bib earlier, so you don't have to worry too much. And the day before the race, you can just rest. And also logistic can include study, doing homework beforehand, like way beforehand, study where the aid station is, where the water stop is. Are there going to be bathroom? Hopefully you don't need it, but if there are going to be any bathroom, and will there be a lot of turns? Will there be, say, you have you have something you can people can cheer you on, and what's the elevation profile? I hope that's you study that way ahead. Elevation profile will be uphill, will be downhill, will be a lot of will be too flat or something. So all these logistic questions you want to address it long before the marathon, and lay out things all the way before the marathon, so that will minimize the stress prior to the marathon. And when you're going into the marathon, you your only goal is to stand there, be ready, get ready to go to run your best race on at that day without thinking about anything else.
Right. That's your sole focus. Got it. And you've planned ahead. You've planned everything out. You laid everything out. That's going to ease that pre-race anxiety. It's going to ease any pressure that you might be putting on yourself to run a
Yes.
sub-3 hour marathon.
Yes.
And so you can just focus on executing the training that you have completed and just go out there and enjoy, right? That you get the
Yes.
privilege to be able to go after this, awesome and amazing goal that you have. And then finally, what's the last tip that you have for race day?
I put it down as weather, but this weather is that the race day weather can be anything. Sometimes it's so bad that even the 2 days before you cannot know exactly what the weather will be. This, say, Boston Marathon, usually you get there 2 days. For people who's not in New England, you probably get there 2 days before. So when you leave, when you board on the plane, you still don't know what the race day weather will be. So in that case, there are two things you can do. First, when you during your training, you're running all kind of weather, so you prepared, you're ready. Any kind of weather can bring. Second is that you may bring a few different outfits to prepare for different weather, because it will change that much. You may have short sleeve, long sleeve, and then different, may even different shoes, and then I like the sleeves that can you can throw that away if you get too warm, and extra hat, extra blanket, and some clothes to throw away to donate, and so you have several different outfits to prepare for different weather.
Yep. Yeah. So making sure that you are adjusting your plan
Mhm.
for the weather as well, whether it is dress
Mhm.
or if you do need to adjust your pacing strategy because it
Sometimes.
is, humid, the dew point is higher, and you're just going to blow up if you do try to go out there at the pace that you're shooting for. But being ready for wind, heat, humidity, rain, right? Like making all those adjustments that you'll need to do for the weather. And yeah, Lou, as we kind of round out and land the plane here, if you can change one thing about the misconception of running a sub-3 marathon, what would that be?
every the misconception is that every section must be so hard. You have to run all the runs at 650 pace per mile pace to run the marathon. No, 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 no. That's called marathon pace runs, and specific for some type of workout. You reserve that for something long run space. Sometimes you have marathon pace run, but you don't have to run every section hard. Actually, it's a fastest way to get injured and the slowest way to get sub 3, because you get, after you run a couple runs you get injured. So do not run every sections as a race. Every section must be hard. No.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. It is a matter of keeping your easy runs easy, truly easy, so you can recover between the really hard runs that you will be doing
Hmm.
during sub-3 marathon training.
Hmm.
So Yeah. Is there anything that we didn't talk about that you did want to cover today, Lou, about this topic?
We will. I cover everything. If you have more questions, you can um, leave comments on the YouTube if you're on the YouTube, and send us email. And just remember, consistency is the key. Remember, going way back to when we start. The experienced runner, it's months, if not years, of consistent running of those mileage under your belt, injury-free strength training, recovery, all these things under your belt. Then you go to the next level. It's doable, but you want to be consistent. You want to keep going. And then you may be far from where the benchmark is, but you can work towards it. A lot of people can do it. It doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be next month or next year. It can be multiple years, but be consistent, and you'll be there.
Yeah, great point. Excellent point. And I think it's a good thing to kind of leave this with. And if you're wondering how to like specifically structure a sub-3 hour marathon, training for your unique circumstances, time constraints in a safe manner so you don't get injured, that's exactly what Coach Lou on our team of our Healthy Runner coaches specializes in within our signature Spark Healthy Runner coaching program, where we provide you with structured run plan, strength training for running, proper mindset, nutrition, and recovery that Lou talked about today, with full support from our Healthy Runner coaching team and accountability. You can learn more and apply using the link in the show notes, or simply go to learn.sparkhealthyrunner.com/coaching. Don't forget to get your free download, the Marathon Blueprint, by clicking that link in the show notes. And Coach Lou, as always, thank you so much for coming on and sharing all that knowledge that you possess, and sharing this with our running community.
It's my pleasure to share my experience and lessons I learned from my mistakes, and to help to talk to everyone.
Yeah, and my name is Dr. Dwayne Scotty, and my mission is to empower you to feel strong and confident in getting faster and enjoying lifelong injury-free marathon running. I'm the founder of Spark Healthy Runner, and you're watching the Healthy Runner podcast channel. Like and subscribe wherever you're listening to this so you don't miss the next one. And today's conversation was all about running a sub-3 marathon. But if you don't have the proper strength in your body to tolerate the training, you will get injured. So start to run with stronger strides with my 3 game-changing strength tips for marathon runners by queuing up episode 273 on the Healthy Runner podcast, or just click this video I have for you next. Let's continue to grow a strong mind, a strong body, and let's just keep on running. Until next time.